Welcome back to another One Piece card game video, and we're gonna go and continue the three captains coverage. It's a little late, I just came back from Pasadena, but today we're gonna go through the red purple Luffy. If you haven't checked out the other decks, I'm gonna have like a little thing at the top right here. Law was great, I still have to do Kid, and then I want to do Magellan and a couple others. But if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe. So let's first talk about the leader, which has two very unique things to him. The first one is that he is a 6K leader. So with Whitebeard banned, and obviously we are making a deck post ban list with Whitebeard gone and him coming back OP05, we have historically known that 6K is pretty dang good against most decks. It just becomes more difficult for any deck to deal with and just to plan around. But the other thing that is more unique about this leader is that he only has 3 life. Now this immediately means that he is a worse Whitebeard, but he could fill a couple gaps and become a pretty strong leader. See, the activate main for him is that you add a Dawn if you have 0, which plays more into the 10 drop Luffy in OP05, and if you have 8 or more, you can add a Dawn as well. So that means any of your minus Dawn effects after 8 Dawn become pretty much for free. So your whole goal with this deck is that you want to ramp as much as possible, get into the higher end, and then protect yourself throughout, so that way you don't die at 3 life. See, the interesting thing about this leader is that it really teaches you some defense. Like all the leaders out of the ultimate deck or the ultra deck is actually kind of difficult to play. Their ceiling is pretty high, and the learning curve is a little bit weird. Like they're not like once you really have a pretty decent build for it and you really start playing it, you have to kind of learn the curve for them, perfect it, and make sure that you don't make mistakes, because any of the leaders, especially Luffy, will punish you for it. Now the other thing is that in Japan, in Asia, you know, anywhere that doesn't have the ban list, Edward Newgate is pretty much the prominent thing about this deck. That the whole reason that you want to ramp is that you get to 8, you add 1, and then you throw down 9 cost Whitebeard to get to an 8K leader. But you really can't do that in this format. You have to wait until it gets unbanned. Hopefully, well, maybe never, but we will see. Instead, you have to ramp into other important and a little less effective things. Starting with the ramp cards, we do have a few. The first one is Miss All Sunday, which is great on curve. Like if you're going first, you do get that draw, which you really desperately do need in this deck. You do end up having a 5K body. There's a couple other things that you can do as well with that trigger effect. We do also have Gene Bart, which is also out of the Ultimate Ultra deck. He is an on play, basically a 5 cost, where you pay for 4, you play on play for 1, and then you add 1 as active, which is super important because your leader is a 6K. You want that actual, or you want that extra Dawn in active mode, so that way you swing 7, and it makes it a little bit more awkward and more difficult for your opponent. And then we also have All Stars, or whatever it's called, Lead Performer Disasters, the 4 cost extra card. I've been very back and forth about this card, but I think what I've found is that if you're playing 9 drop Kaido, or if you're going second, really, it just ends up being a better card. There is the alternate Basil Hawkins, the purple one, in which you can pay 4 and ramp 1 in rest, and that's really what you know, find out. With Basil, it is only a 2K weenie. It could be an extra attack to take game, right, in the right circumstances, and he also is counter power. But the fact that you can draw off of this on the trigger and as well as on play ends up being pretty decent. And I think with you combine this with Wire and as well as Queen, you can just pitch it anytime. And then finally, my I don't know if anybody else is playing this card, but Polly. I like Polly quite a lot. I played at 3, and he is pretty good on 7 Dawn, because again, there's going to be times that if you don't have a Queen, or if you don't have something else to play on 7 Dawn, you end up playing Polly. You get that extra Dawn, you can ramp 1 with your leader, keep 1 active for guard point or something else, and then also swing 7 or whatever else with that extra Dawn after you use Polly. Plus the KO effect is pretty cool. I mean, at the end of the day, he is a 5/6. So I mean, the theme of keeping 6s on board and on your face is usually what you want to do. The real question is, if you're going to be ramping so much, what are you ramping to, right? There are some replacements for Whitebeard, right? I think what it comes down to, you have Shanks, Kaido, and then the 10 drop Luffy. And not so much in that order. It really depends on what you want to do and what you are going against, right? So you have those three, but then you also have the 7 cost kid, which effectively makes your leader a 7k leader for 2 turns, which is pretty awesome. People really love getting rid of the 7 cost kid, but you know, you're still that 7k leader, and you still can be aggressive and defensive at the same time because of it. Shanks gets around things like Queen and is just a 9 cost big swing immediately. And if you are at 9 and you can ramp 1, then you can just use Shanks and then have 1 open. The previous turn with 7 or paying the 7 cost kid, that's pretty much the ideal point that you want to be in. Now we play the other 2, excluding the 9 cost Newgate. It's a one of, we should all know that we should be playing that anyway. Just throw it in the deck. The 10 cost Luffy pretty much makes a really interesting board state for your opponent, right? Everything except for black basically says you can't block unless you want to lose 2 things. If you want to block the 10 or the 11k swing, you're going to end up losing something else. You can clear a board very quickly, which you'll probably see in the gameplay as well. Now, Luffy is great. It's just that it is a really big commitment. And when you don't want to use all 10 of your Dawn and you can't minus anything unless you use the 7 cost to do that, then the Kaido is going to be there in a pinch, which you can pop anything 6 or less, which could be any kind of blocker like a 5 cost Law or whatever it may be, and then swing that 10. And now taking a look at the full deck list in the sim, which I'll hopefully remember to put in the description below, we have pretty much everything that you need to, now I would say, to cycle through the deck, to ramp, and to get to your top end basically. And it's very interesting where you start playing this deck and you value more of your 1k counters versus your 2k counters, because it you know, it feels bad to 2k out of a 6k swing, and people usually just go to 6k instead. And it feels pretty good when someone swings at 7 to your 6, because you can just pitch a 2k. But overall, you have the Otama, which I'll move my camera over here. The Otama, we have the Gordon. Otama is cool because you can swing into anything that has 2 or minus 2k. It's just a utility red 2k. And along with Gordon, which you have a lot of things that you can't counter with, things that you just need to cycle through, which Gordon allows you to do that along with the Queen, along with the Wire. And Wire has a few different targets. It's not a huge ton, but I think because he is a 3 cost blocker, he is a 1k in a pinch, and as well as the once per turn is not too bad. You can even have probably like Hell's Judgment instead of some of these other event cards that you might want to use, or you don't want to use, I should say. The other lower end, I found that Nami, because you don't have too many turn 1 plays or just plays in general that has a low cost Dawn, Nami has been really good because, again, it's that 1k counter. You need more of those, and you are basically a 7k swing every single turn. And with the kid, obviously you're an 8 on attack, and you know, that type of thing. But Nami has been great. If we still had Nami, the 1 cost top 5, I would probably put this to 4, just simply because you need that one that turn 1 play, and she just is very useful. I haven't put this at 4 to see it, because sometimes when you draw Nami late game, it doesn't really do too much for you. So if you see it, you see it. If you can use it for counter, you can use it for counter. This is definitely a flex spot for yourself. The things that we didn't really talk about, again, are the Queen. You know, like I said, you can -1 trigger the Wire, which effectively draw 2 pitch 1 and draw 1 pitch 1. You draw 3 cards. You get rid of any of the cards that are in your hand that you really don't want, like the Leaf Form of Disaster, etc. And the other concept for that is going to be the Bad Manners Kit Course. And you play this one, not the purple one, because of the trigger. They do the same thing. It's just that the trigger is a lot more useful when you can -3k, and you only have 3 life, which is fine. But when you do see it and you do end up triggering it, it feels pretty good. We do have Radical Beam as well as Guard Point. You want the 1k counters because some of your plays are just ending up having 1 extra Dawn, right? And if you ramp after you minus a Dawn, after you deplete your Dawn, then you can just add that active Dawn and then use that for the event card as well. And then finally, the 4-cost Law. It's a really good card. There's not really too much to say. I bumped it down to 3 because some people are playing it more and more, are playing around it more and more. Sometimes you just can't avoid it, right? When you're a 6K leader, you can swing 6, 7, 8, 9 pretty easily, and you end up having them to have more and more cards in their hand because they can't defend against it. So Trafalgar Law is great. He is a blocker. You kind of need blockers in this deck. I was playing Chopper. But because I was increasing so many of the things that didn't have counter power, I was just finding that it just didn't feel good. So if you do find a place for it, like probably Nami, you can switch these two for 2 Chopper. Go ahead and do that. So when we talk about OPO5, there are a few different cards you can take a look at. Obviously, when Nami comes back, you're going to have a little bit more consistency in another turn 1 play. But if in general you just want to know, Zorajuru is cool. I really do like him. He has a 3 cost. You add 1 Dawn to make it 5, so that way it's a viable swing. And you're gonna be able to add 1 Dawn to your Dawn deck and set it to active pretty much every single time because you are a 3 life leader. So you combine this with Gene Bart, you pretty much have one of the best ramp engines that you need. I keep talking about this card, but the 5-cost Kid is still really good for this because whenever you minus Dawn, you get that active back. So I highly suggest that you do look into this for OPO5. And I might get a little controversial here, but I really like the 10-cost Secret Luffy. He is really cool. It is interesting to really play the card. Like if you played a little bit of OPO5, you'll understand what I'm saying. Where you play this for 10. You go into the leader effect, you go into this effect to go into an extra Dawn, and then the following turn you do it again, you're back at 5 Dawn, and you're Gucci, you're fine. And then you can use something like Gene Bart, or you can use something like Miss All Sunday, and then you can keep going and then just have that 12k body on board. The longer that card is on board, the better. But you know, the meta, depending on what we see, might change in pace, so it might not be as effective. I think that's enough talking. Let's get into the gameplay. All right, so we're gonna start out with going against Law, which is one of the counterparts of Luffy. We chose to go first, and I think we're gonna keep this hand because we have a couple things that we really like, which is the Gene Bart. We have some counter power, and we have a Shanks, which is gonna be kind of important against this deck, along with the Kid too. I think both are going to be pretty important. The annoying thing to go against, okay, we ran into a jet pistol. Forgot about that one. The only thing about Law is that there's just a lot of different effects going off, and you pretty much won't be able to stay anything on board or keep anything on board. So that's the kind of the annoying part here. And I think we did use leader effect. We used the Nami to swing 7. We have 1 open for guard point, and we're gonna either play the Shanks or the Newgate next turn, which our lovely Brook is swinging 7 here. I think what we're gonna have is probably our Kid to get removed because we do have a good amount of Dawn open as Law. Yeah, the round table comes down and he gets bottom decked, which is not amazing. I was thinking about playing the Poly to get rid of the Beppo. Beppo is pretty important for Law, and as soon as you get rid of him, it's really detrimental. Really, it's going to be a lot harder for them to keep up their Dawn. Really. So we're 8K leader. He has another round table, which is not cool, but we do have our Shanks in hand. Still thinking about the Poly here, but I think we're just gonna swing 7 and then swing 10 after that. I think he probably burns a guard point here. Oh no, just 2 cards, and then the Beppo goes. So he does have the Law. I don't know if he's gonna have another answer to our Shanks, but he does minus it 2, which is pretty suspect. Nami is doing some work here. Just giving us that extra Dawn every single turn. And we're going to go ahead and pop the good old Law. And we're going to swing a few times here. And that might be a wrap, actually. I forgot how quick this game was. Gonna give him a cool GG, and that's it. I think we got a little lucky in the way of how we drew, but that's kind of the whole point of the deck, right? You sort of have to cycle through as much as possible. Didn't really see any queens or wires to do that, but we did hit the event card that ramped us one, get that extra Dawn as well as draw. The other cool thing is that we got round table twice as we were trying to set up, and the two rush cards that we do ramp into really helped us out. So I think that's kind of the two things that you really want to keep in mind. All right, next up is Queen. So they're gonna go second. We're gonna go first. I mulligan into a much better hand, I think. And I think, you know, one of the things I didn't discuss is the fact that you have a choice between Gene Bart and Miss All Sunday, and the choice is either do I want Queen fodder later, or do I want counter power now, and along with the draw, right? So against this matchup, personally, I think you play the Miss All Sunday versus the Gene Bart, because you know it's just a good draw. You want to draw into the things that you want to keep alive, or beat them with, I should say. And yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. And he's going to keep swinging these 7 and 6s, so having that extra counter power is pretty good. I think swinging 6 here first and then Shanks is pretty important, because now it forces him to either take the life or block with the Dofi blocker. We do have the Ever Dugate 1-of, which is pretty cool. So we're going to get ahead and see that come down pretty soon here. Wire is just sitting there, not doing the -1 just yet, because we haven't really seen any of the... I think I should have blocked here, because as soon as we saw the pound, I think we should have blocked there. That was one thing that I should have kept in mind. But we did have the extra life, which is pretty sick. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's what I was thinking of at the time. I think just because I had that extra life, I was like, hey, cool. I'm no longer at 2 life. I'm still a 3 life leader. Thank you for the extra life. I appreciate that. He does play the Kaido, which means his hand is not good. I gotta let you know, it probably is not good. We played the Gordon out because there's only like 2 significant swings, which is going to be his Kaido and his leader. Queens, more often than not, don't really swing too hard with their leader, because they end up playing high costed cards, right? And they don't really have anything reserved for their leader for Dawn usage. So we're going to swing 10 here. We got rid of the other blocker. He blocked with the other blocker because Shanks invalidates it, and that's kind of what we wanted. Anyway, we have 3 guard points in hand, all 3 in the deck, into our hand. We have Bad Manners Course, which means we can probably protect our 10Ks pretty easily against this Kaido, which I think that's what he's going to do. So Bad Manners or a guard point along with the Gene Bart should get us there. And then he has to reserve the rest of his Dawn for something else, which is going to be Yamato, which that's exactly what I was saying. And I think for him, I think I'm not the greatest Queen player, but I think he probably should have. Oh, no. Okay, he shouldn't. Oh, he couldn't have. Never mind. I was going to say he's probably should have swung with leader 1 Dawn underneath, but he was at 5 in total. So I don't know. He probably had the choice of playing Yamato and swing with leader. And that's pretty much it. So the reason why I swung with the Whitebeard first is because there are plenty of triggers that give him blockers. So making sure that you play around that is super important. Obviously, you can put 2 under Whitebeard if you end up doing that, because I mean, this only ignores I think 2K or less. So in all technicalities, you can do it the other way around. It's just that you have a 2 extra Dawn or guard points to protect yourself instead. So there you go. I think this matchup is a little easier than most when playing against certain decks or slower decks, because they're playing at the same pace that you are. Faster decks like Zoro and things like that, it's going to be a little bit harder. Category is a little bit difficult as well, because if you are going against yellow and they're playing Big Mom or the 7 cost or whatever, you're going to be playing behind quite a lot, because you are, again, that three life leader, which is going to be the definite balance and balancing act that you have to deal with. All right, last up is going to be the Kid. Unfortunately, only amount of games that I have time for. But we did draw pretty okay. We got the Wire, we got the Miss All Sunday, we got the Gene Bart, looking pretty good. If he swings 6, then we can get rid of a Gene Bart, play the Miss All Sunday the next turn, keep swinging from there. And that's probably what's going to happen, depending on if he goes kind of crazy with it, which he did. We did get the trigger, completely forgot about that, but that's another reason, again, why we do play it. So we're going to go ahead and swing 7 here, make sure he goes down to 3, which is probably where he wants to be anyway. As kid, I did not play around the law, so that's my fault. I probably should have used the Gene Bart against purple, but hey, that is the why we test the decks. So that's okay. I was looking for a 2K. We got it there with the Gordon. We're gonna have our own law come down. And then I think swinging 5 here, we made him pitch the 7 cost and as well as the Shanks, which is interesting that he's playing the Shanks, but it kind of makes sense if you're going to be ramping as well. Only 3 cards in hand, but we do have 2 blockers, 3K in hand as well. The kid's going to come down next turn. I think I could have kept the kid too, by the way, but that's okay. Because we did get the Wire trigger, which is nice. So the Wire trigger comes in. We're going to exchange the 1K for the 2K, and this is where the deck kind of shines, where we have a 7K leader. We're swinging 7s because we have so much ability to manipulate our Dawn. We have what, 6K in our hand for counter power, and he can't swing. He literally cannot swing here now. He can swing at, oh yeah, he can do that too. So okay, I was wrong on that one, but I mean, still stands. The point still stands. We have 2 kids out, and I almost misplayed here because I forgot to use my leader ability afterwards. So if you end up having 9 Dawn playing the kid, or 7 Dawn and playing the kid, or 8 Dawn playing the kid, and you minus an 8, you're not able to go and ramp from there. So I kind of misplayed there. We do have the Wire. We're still at an 8K leader, with what, 8K in our hand. So I don't think we're gonna die anytime soon, and I don't think he's gonna be able to get rid of all of our things on board. He may be able to swing into one of these 5K, sorry, but he does swing 10 into our face, and he's gonna go ahead and quit and disconnect before I even get the chance to swing. So cool. That is Luffy. That is the ramp Luffy. Pretty quick games. If I can find some more games like on Katakuri or any of these other decks like Green Purple Dofi. Green Purple Dofi is interesting because you're both playing sort of a longer game. Dofi has more and more options and more versatility than you do because of the Uda, because of the 7-drop, because of the way that he can get a little bit more aggro with the 3 costs and things like that. But that's probably another video, right? So if you want more gameplay, either subscribe to me or follow me on Twitch. It's in the description below, or let me know in the comments what you want to see. So I'll see you in the next one. Later.